So that's roughly what we're going to paint tonight. This is a sketch. I have other sketches. Well, this the origin of this is I go back to Michigan and I stay on the Lake Michigan side of the state, up in the top of the thumb or top of the mitten, up in Traverse City, and we paint um, a lot of the beach areas up that way. The sand dunes, Sleeping Bear Sand Dunes is up there. A lot of nice little wineries and a lot of coastal things to do. But these sketches are kind of indicative of what we want to be capturing tonight. Um, this is a detail of that sketchbook. So I want to do a tree mass to the on the left-hand side, capture the lake at the top, and I'll put a sky in. Now this one, the horizon line, because this is an elongated landscape. The horizon line is real high in the painting, but I'm going to lower it so I can do a different kind of tree. But putting the horizon line in, that's the first decision to make, because that'll dictate what kinds of things I can get into the foreground or into the middle ground that will be that'll express the dunes area, the lakeshore and dune area. Here's some more of those sketches. Here's photographs of the area so you can see um, the lake and the dune sand and the skies of Michigan. This tree here, I think this is from the UP. This a lot of gale winds and real strong winds come off the lake, come off Green Bay and the northern part of Lake Michigan and hit the trees, and they grow huge lodgepole. They call them lodgepole pines, and they are 3 and 4 stories tall. They're really tall, and the tops of the trees usually get formed and shaped a lot like the California coast trees by the elements, by the wind. And so I really like the shape of that tree. I like the grouping um, down here of the let me see if I can draw here a little bit. I like this grouping of this massing that's going on here, so I'll try to capture some of that. But I want to try to sneak in that really nice expressive shape at the top in tonight's painting. So I'll probably build my painting. This thing is just grabbing. I'll probably build my painting into an L shape um, composition, and I'll probably sneak that tree way over here with it coming down into the dune area in the foreground. But that's where I'll put all that expressive limb work up at the top um, as I execute the painting. So let's get rid of all this and go on. So I'm gonna grab that tree and put it into the scene. Let's get rid of that. And this is in the sketch or in the painting, there is there is there is this band of color where the shore goes down and then the lake drops off. So you get these really beautiful bands of color in the water. So we got this nice ultramarine blue and this like teal, cobalt teal blue, where the light is reflecting off the sand on the bottom. I'm going to grab some of that and put that in. You can see how the grasses grow on the dunes. We'll get some of that feeling into the painting tonight. Here's just some more vegetation as it comes down into the water, just to give you a feel for when I'm painting these shapes, what I'm indicating. I'm indicating this growth of material that can grow in the sand. Here's some more tall trees. This is shoreline again. So you have all this wonderful. There's the a tall tree. I thought I had a photo in here that was indicative of the design of the painting. This one kind of does it in that there's that strong tree shape. Okay, how come I can't get, let's get off of this. There we go. There's that strong tree shape. And then this is showing a beach scene, but we'll get a nice strong L shape in our composition. Instead of people and water line, I'm going to have dunes and then water in the background. So those are the objectives, and that's the uh, feel for the painting tonight. I want to get rid of this. So let's stop sharing, and we'll go back to the board, and I'll go through my palette tonight. On the palette, I've got ultramarine blue and I have cerulean blue, and this is my cobalt teal blue over here off to the side. Those are the three blues I'll be using tonight. I've got cad yellow, cad red, burnt sienna down here, and then down in this lower corner I have graphite gray and I have in ivory black. And I might use these for tinting, or not tinting, but shading some colors or putting darks in. I also have this oxide black or lunar black. Either one, this is that PBK11 pigment, and this is a granulating black. I might throw that on the palette later, but I like this is a granulating. This graphite gray is a granulating color, so I might just stay with that, so I don't quite get the severity of the black. I've got the granulating property in that gray. Again, those are my colors for tonight. At the top of the page off screen, I've got my water bottles, my spray bottles, eyedroppers, large spray bottle that I'll be reaching for. You'll see me reaching for those. I have pocket knives to do some scraping in. I also have a palette knife to do some scraping in terms of ancillary tools I might be reaching for. The brushes I'll be using tonight, I've got three different kinds of rounds. I've got this number 6 round. These are quill rounds, but I've got a 6.2 and a 2-aught or 2.0. This is roughly like a 14 round. This would be like an 8, and this would be like a 10 round if you're working with rounds tonight. I also have this. This is a Kolinsky sable, but I use it as a quill. And this is it's got a little bit longer belly to it than the others. So I might reach for that one occasionally tonight. And it holds a fair amount of water. And I have these two very ugly, cheap 49-cent brushes that I'll be using to stipple in my trees. And what I love about these brushes is I think they're used for painting trim in houses or something. I get them at Home Depot. I think these I got at Gyrie's, which is a local paint supplier here in Denver. And I really love the feathery hair, the broken, uncared for hair quality of that brush. It's really nice. I'll show you how I use that tonight. In the wings, I've got some riggers. I've got an elongated needlepoint rigger, and then I have a standard rigger. This is a number 3. I also have a number 12 round. I probably won't reach for this, but I've got it in the on the side just in case I want to. This is a Kolinsky sable in case I want to use that brush for some reason. I have 2 sponges that I'll be cleaning my brush, and then I'll be wiping the water off into my sponges. I also have this 2-inch brush, just like these brushes. If I want to do a large field of that stippling, I might reach for that. If you have any kind of a flat brush, this is a 1-inch. I think that's a 0.30. It's a metric one. These will work just as fine. You might just have to splay out the filament to be able to get the same kind of texture that I'll get on this. So here's my paper. Like I said, I'm gonna keep the horizon line pretty low in the painting because I want the sky and I want that tree reaching up into the top of the paper with the cascade of the dune area in the foreground here. So I'm going to work really hard to keep that horizon line low. and I'm going to try and keep my tree area about where my hand is. On other iterations of this same kind of a painting, so it's real easy to cheat that over, and that will work. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but this particular painting I want to do tonight, I want that shape off to this side of the painting and reaching up towards the sky with the that beautiful banding of blue coming across, integrating with the sky blue, and then the dune. So I want to keep this to a minimum. I'm going to work really hard to not come over too far. I really want it to be about no further than this. Let's see how I do. So I'm going to grab this brush first, and I'm going to get it wet. I'm going to go into my yellow, and I'm going to mix up. This is cad yellow again. If we have people that are joining late, I'll just go over the colors real quick while I'm mixing up. I've got ultramarine blue, cerulean blue, cobalt teal. I've got cad yellow, cad red, burnt sienna, and ivory black and graphite gray on my palette tonight. So I'm mixing this up. I just want a thin wash of this yellow, and I'm going to come up into this area of the painting, and I'm going to fire up some of that yellow, and be careful not to come over too far. Take my rag and just lift some of that back. I just want to stain that color, that yellow on the page to begin with. A little bit more down here, a little bit more solid yellow here. Bring that down into the dune area. So now I have a base color that I can lift out to, and I can scrape into, and it'll give me this bright yellow underneath it. And what I'm going to do, I need to get that to dry. So I'm going to take my heat gun real quick and just hit that real quick, dry that up. Still have a little bit of moisture up in the top area here, so I can mix into that, and it will give me a blending. So let's go in here and let's grab some ultramarine blue, mix that into my yellow, a little bit more yellow. I'm going to clean this, and then down below I'm going to mix a little bit darker green. Didn't want to do that. So I'm going to mix this up, and I'm going to throw a little bit of ivory black into it, a little bit of red. Red will, all three primaries will neutralize that color mix. Just throw a little bit of red into this. A little bit of ivory black. And then just a little bit more blue. Mixing just a little bit darker green from that green that's up there. This is more of it's definitely a deeper value green, more like an olive. And I'm going to come up here with this brush, splay out those filaments, and I'm just going to go in here and stipple in some of this dark. Then I'm going to clean this. I think I've already come over a little too far. Let's take that back. Grab some of this lighter green. Stipple that in. I'm going to set this brush down. I'm going to grab this small round. Let's make that just a little bit more green. So I'm just adding a little bit more blue and a little bit more yellow to that mix. Just a touch more black. I need just a little bit more yellow. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start working on that tree shape up top here. So I'm going to put some of these shapes. Bring some over here. I'm going to grab my knife, scrape a trunk through, and get that limb work going. Just go grab a little bit of blue, drop it into that. And the idea there is I'm giving myself a variegation of color, light and dark, within that shape. Bring some of this down. A couple of scrape through a little bit. And now I've got that tree shape. Just spatter some of that dark into that shape. Now I'm going to work on my water now. And for that, I'm going to go let's clean this up. Don't need this anymore. I can go back and mix this. Let's clean this up. Okay, my water, let's get some ultramarine. Let's get that mixed up. I'm going to grab my large round, this dude right here, because I want this to be a single stroke. Single stroke right about there. Set the brush, bring it across. Let's get a little bit more blue. Clean my brush. Clean water. Just going to run that clean water right through this. And that, I hope, will cause that to granulate, so I'll get some texture up in that shape. Let's get some of this cobalt teal. I'm going to cut that just a little bit with that ultramarine and make it just a little bit bluer. And I'm going to come right in underneath this with that wash and let those two just kind of marinate with each other. So there's my water. There's my tree shape that I'll punch values, and I'll do more with that shape later as we go. But I have a really good mid-tone green. I have nice lights here, good mid-tone green, a little bit darker from here, but not quite, down in the 8 or 9 value range yet. Just a good mid-tone going. And compared to these two shapes, this is the darker shape. I can work that later. But right now I want to go in and I want to spend some time working the foreground, which is where the dune area is. So for this, I'm going to mix up some. Let's do this. Let's clean this again. And I'm going to grab a little bit of this green and bring it down here. A little bit of red. A little bit of water. Now I have burnt sienna on my palette right over here. So I could use that, but I'm mixing up this real light, this light mixture. What happens with cadmium red is as you use it and you hit it with water and you do other things to it, sometimes that red will leach out and it will give you degrees of brown, but red poking out. Whereas this won't. This will just stay with that earthy color, but we might get a little bit more action out of this color. That's why I mixed it. But when I come back in and put some accent on top of this, I'll probably reach for the burnt sienna because it will stay pretty much put where I put it. Now I'm going to hit this area down here, which is completely dry with a little bit of water. So I can work into this. I'm going to grab this earthy color. Let's see how this works. Yeah, that works pretty well. Just go in there and just start dabbing in some dark areas. In a dune, you get sand that builds up, and then these little dips in the dune area where the light does different things. And sometimes those dips will be shadowy, and sometimes and then you have nice bright light coming off of where the sun's hitting it and pushing it directly at you. So I want to paint that with some variegation here. I hit this with water so I can paint into this, wet into wet. And I'm just dropping I'm using the tip of that brush, and I'm just dropping in little color notes across that watery surface and letting the water on the paper just carry the pigment. I like to join some of these darks so there's a little bit of rhythm to them, a little bit of movement, white to dark, and then that movement, that dark transitions, it waffles its way through on the paper. This area over here is going to be in shadow. So I'm just just trying to indicate some of that brown that I'll paint over with ultramarine later. It's the shadow that'll be coming from that stand of trees. And then once I have that area illustrated that way or rendered that way, I'll just go back in and just lightly lift areas.
Was
And
that
there
cadmium red, and what other color were you using?
it was, I have cadmium red. I put a little bit of green, and that green was a mixture of the ultramarine and the cad yellow. So I've got both primaries in this mix. I brought that down here, and then I just introduced a little bit of red to it to neutralize it, send it brown.
Thank you.
And yeah, sure. And then you can see where I'm lifting out. There's the ultramarine is starting to come out. On these edges here, I've got cadmium red as it dries into the paper. That cadmium red is leaching out. We might see some cad yellow down here where I thinned out the wash, leaching out because it'll float away from the red and the blue because it's a lighter pigment. All right, so I'm going to work on this area here now, which means I'm going to wet this, and I'm going to use my cerulean blue. I'm going to just drop some of that color in. Really, I'm sorry about that. I have a new arrangement of studio lights. We thought we would try doing more lighting, and I guess it overheats my camera. Um, so we'll have to figure that out before our fall classes. Always something. So I just clean up my palette. Going to work on that. So let's get a little cerulean blue. I'm going to work with this middle brush, um, and let's get some cerulean blue down here. Get that mixing up. A little bit of water. I'm going to drop just a touch of this ultramarine into one side of it, just so I can get a little variation of blue. Clean my brush. I'm going to grab my water bottle. I'm just going to hit a light spray of water up here. And I'm going to drop color in. Using the belly of the brush, just drop some of that sky into that wet and wet. I'm going to come down here on the horizon and put a big patch of that blue in. Start mixing that in with the blue up in the sky. Don't want a hard line there, so I need to get working on that right away. Over into this corner. Clean my brush. Come back down in here, break up some of these edges that are forming. Take that off the page. Now I'm going to start dropping some of this darker blue into different areas. I'm just touching the tip of the brush into the page. Get a rag ready. So right there where I've got some of that's a little too strong, I'll just go lift some of that back. We'll figure this heat thing out. It may mean that we have to buy air conditioning for the house. I'm sure that Sue would like that. All right, so there's my sky. I'm just going to hit this with a little bit more water. Just ask it to marinate together a little bit more. And then I'll come down here and I'll start working on this area of the painting, and then I'll tie up my values and we'll be pretty much done. We have all of our major shapes described in the painting. Let's come down here and let's work on this foreground area. Now I've got cerulean blue, got ultramarine. Let's lift a lot of this cerulean blue out of here. Just leave a little bit. Now mix that with my ultramarine. I'm going to water this down. A bit more cerulean. Ultramarine. Touch of red, just a touch. Give me a little bit of violet, purple, a little bit more blue. So now I've got my shadow color mixed up. Let's get some red up here in this green. Mix this to a brown, a little more yellow. Pushing toward orange. A little more water. Now it's a really thin mixture of paint. This is probably consistency of skim milk. And I'm just going to use this to go in and punch some of these other areas. Before I do that, I don't know if you can see this in the camera. Right here and right down here, that ultramarine broke out of that color mix of that red brown color mix that I mixed up. Got a little bit of yellow corona down here, a little bit of red breaking out here, blue up here. So that's why I mixed that color that was like burnt sienna, because I can get it to break out as it dries, and I get these variegations of color. Now, if I come back in here with another mix over that, another layer over that, I can punch some of these darks. And I'll hit this with spray. Once I have this washed down. Got to be a little more careful. Push that color up into that shape. Now, before that dries up, I'm going to take my misting sprayer and I'm going to hit the edges of this, because I don't really want hard lines here. I want softer edges, hard edges. I want softer edges. And I'm going to drop some more of this color over here because this will be in shadow. Let that marinate for a little bit. Put that brush down, get a rag ready. Wipe up the excess. And I'm gonna get my heat gun and dry this all up. And I'll paint my ultramarine shadow underneath that tree over there. Okay. Now I'm gonna grab let's see what I'm gonna do here now. Let's get that blue in. I'm gonna grab that medium brush, make sure it's clean. Hit those edges with a little bit of spray. And look at it. Ultramarine is just dropping into those layers. Take that off the page. Maybe a little bit of ultramarine up into the tree. Set that brush down. Get my rag. And I just see a little bit of water collecting, but I don't think it's anything I really need to get too crazy about. Now I'm going to start punching some darks into this this dune area. So I'm going to grab my small quill. This is about a number 6 round, maybe 8. Make sure it's clean. I'm going to go mix up a little bit of green. Now here I've got some cerulean, I have some ultramarine, just a touch of it, and I'm just bringing in this yellow, cad yellow, a little bit of red into this over on this side, just so I get some value in that of that green. A little bit of spray in the foreground. And I'm just going to go into the dunes and I'm going to drop some of this dark in. While that's still wet, I take my knife and I'm going to start cutting in some dune grasses. Let's grab this is still pretty wet, so I'm going to grab my heat gun and just dry that up so I can go back in there with some more green. Little calligraphy. My knife ready. And I'm cutting these grass marks over the water and over the sky. because it'll act as an overlaid shape, and it will help describe that being in the foreground and those areas in the background. Let's get a little more blue in here. I'm going to hit this with a little spray. Cut through this. A little bit more off the bottom edge. Clean my brush. That area looks a little dead. Let's just throw something in that area. I'm going to float some of this graphite gray into some of these if they're still wet. A little bit of graphite gray into that blue green. Up into this area here. I don't want to cover all those nice brights. So I'm just going to dance my brush in around them. Mostly where I have some green showing, I'm just going in and touching that brush on that green area and letting those oranges and yellows come through. Go up here. A little bit more work up here. I'm going to hit this area right down here with some water. And I'm going to grab my heat gun and dry this up. I'll put some more blue on here, and then just a touch of calligraphy with my rigger, and we'll pull this painting together. Let's see if we can punch or bring some of this down. I'm just cutting into the paper with some of these cut marks with the edge of my blade of my knife. All right, let's clean the palette. Got to get that green out because it will neutralize the blue. Make sure my brush is clean. Ultramarine, water. Touch of red right here. So I have a little bit of violet at this end. Clean my brush. Go grab some blue. Drop that blue in. Make that up. Okay. Maybe a little bit of water down here. Take my rag. Just go in here and lay it. Lift a little bit of this out. I'm just spattering paint everywhere tonight. Can't run watercolor. Paper's cheap. All right, so there's basically the language of the painting. So now it's a matter of going in and putting some jewelry on this painting. Put some more cut marks in here through those wet areas. Grab my rigger. A little bit of graphite gray into that blue. Let's come up onto the shape. Pull with a rigger, you want to pull it in the direction of the brush, meaning you don't want to push the brush because it will splay it out. Go ahead and lift some of that back. Put some of this in here. Punching in some darks. When I hit this with a heat gun, then I'm going to do some overspray and lifting out, and we're going to be pretty well there. Clean rag, spray bottle, tap a couple of light shots, let it set for just a second. And put more up here. I'm just tapping that trigger, and it just throws out just a little bit of spray. And then it can lift back to that bright yellow color that we put down at the beginning. Now let's see. I'm going to go up into this area right here where that weathered pine tree is, and just put some more darks up there. And I'm just going to hit this with a little heat gun. Just to dry that up.
That is gorgeous.
Thank you.
It is so pretty. It has been, for all of us who at least live in the Denver area, so hot the last few days. Today was a little reprieve at like 90, but it's been so hot, and that just looks so refreshing. And like, I just want to go get in that water.
I'm with
Just to honor the time we've had together tonight. This was so much fun, even though we had our challenges.
Does
I'm glad
anybody
it
have any
happened.
questions for Steve real quickly before we sign off? I
Are you
don't see-
starting in September?
Yes, in September, we're going to do a rivers and streams class.
Ooh,
And
Oh,
then
perfect.
in November, we're going to do Paint the Cotswolds, because we went on a trip to the Cotswolds earlier in summer, so that'll be fun. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us. And again, thanks for your patience with our glitches and our email problems. It was the technology gremlins were after us today, but we appreciate it. I will send you, I told you I'd send you the link for the digital download, and I'm going to go ahead and send you the link for the recording as well, because things didn't go quite as planned. But we appreciate you all, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
Thank you
thanks,
so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
This was
Thank
really
you.
fun.
Thank you.
Good,
Thank
glad
For
you're
making our
enjoying.
summer day fun. Thank you.
Thank you
Wonderful.
so much.
Thank
you.
Beautiful painting.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
it is pretty, isn't
You're
it?
gorgeous.
Love the
Great to-
colors.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah,
to
it
see
turned
you
out
all.
really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Good
Bye-bye,
night.
everyone.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you.
Bye.